effective early detection and treatment options available to women. As you've mentioned, Senators, a recent critique of these major clinical trials has reawakened the debate by casting doubt on the absolute value of mammography. While my written testimony provides more specific details, the bottom line is that the NCI has reviewed this latest analysis, and after careful and serious deliberation, we have concluded that the weight of evidence continues to show that mammography saves lives through early detection, which permits treatment of the disease at an earlier stage. This conclusion is shared by the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force, an independent panel of private sector experts in prevention and primary care that is sponsored by the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. Senators, allow me to be clear in my testimony. As the director of the National Cancer Institute, who was also an investigator, a clinician, and a cancer patient, I want to assure you and the women of this nation that we are being vigilant regarding evaluation of all information on early detection of breast cancer, that we are dedicated to continuously improving the diagnosis and treatment of this disease to save lives, and finally, to reaffirm the following recommendation that beginning in their 40s, women should be screened for breast cancer with mammography every 1 to 2 years. In my written testimony, I provided you with detailed information regarding our vigilant examination and monitoring of the data, our insights into the debate among the experts, and I enumerated many of the programs that are being sponsored by the National Cancer Institute to improve early detection and treatment of breast cancer. Today, in my oral testimony, I would like to focus on what I believe is the crux of the issue. In this first chart, women of this nation need to know that while we are far from declaring victory, we are headed in the right direction. In the past 10 years, overall mortality rates from breast cancer continue to fall. We first saw this encouraging trend in 1989 with a decreasing death rate of 1.4% per year. More recently, the decrease has sharpened to 3.2% per year. There are significant declines for all ages, and this reduction in death rates has resulted over time in 38,000 saved lives. We have a long way to go, in particular to address the gap between white and black women. But we must ensure that as we go forward, that this downward trend you see here continues. There are multiple factors that can be attributed to this decline. We also need to understand that it is a complex interaction of both the value of early detection, namely the application of mammography, and the application of better therapies that are being developed and applied to women who are diagnosed with breast cancer. This is an equation in which both factors leading to that decline are important. Experts may argue the degree to which one of those factors may or may not be contributing to the outcome. But clearly, both factors are of importance, and both factors must remain in the equation, because without detection, treatment is not possible. We, at the same time, must remember that we have to continue to focus on further downturn in that curve. And in that regard, we must continue to monitor information to determine better methods of early detection. We must, at the same time, contribute to more improved methods of therapy so that together they will result in the most appropriate outcome that you have asked for, namely that we save lives of women with breast cancer. I would like to once again reassure the women of this nation that the National Cancer Institute stands today by its recommendation of mammography screening beginning in women in their 40s, and that we are doing everything we can so that tomorrow we can improve prevention, screening, treatment, and supportive care so that we will continue these encouraging trends in survival that we have seen over the last decade. I thank you for the opportunity to testify about this vitally important topic, and I will be pleased later to respond to your questions.
Sure. It is the National Cancer Institute's position that women should continue to get annual mammograms starting at age 40?
Every 1 to 2 years, Senator, is our recommendation. Whether there is a difference between every year or at least once between 1 and 2 years is still not absolutely determined, but at least 1 to every 2 years.
You've read the Danish study of Doctors Olsen and Gotschke.
Yes.
And also the PDQ, which is really an advisory board to the NIH, NCI, has also raised yellow flashing lights. Could you give us your comments and analysis of the Danish study, and if you care to comment on PDQ, a board member who will be testifying later? Because this is, you've just said the position we've had clearly since you've said it clearly, and the position's been clear since 1997. We welcome your commentary on these two studies that essentially dispute what you've just said.
In summary, the investigators that you addressed looked at the 7 randomized trials, made decisions about certain aspects of those trials in terms of how much they would weight them or include them in a combined analysis of the information called a meta-analysis. And based on their judgments and their decisions about the relative value of some of those studies, they eliminated some of them from the ultimate analysis. And then when they applied their meta-analysis, concluded that the information was not significant enough to warrant continued support of mammography. Other statisticians, other experts have looked at their analysis and have raised concerns about many of the judgments that they made on a statistical basis. And so there is difference of opinion regarding experts as to how one should evaluate those 7 combined trials. Other experts have looked at that information and have concluded, as the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force has, that the data still supports the value of mammography in the equation that I pointed out and must continue to remain an important part of that equation. So the issue here, Senator, is a difference in statistical interpretation and methodology. From the scientific perspective, there is value in that argument. From the clinical perspective, however, one must conclude that there is no indication that mammography should not be in that equation based on that analysis, even if you may want to argue whether it's providing the major part of that equation or a component of it.
Doctor, I have time for one more question. Essentially, what you're saying is one group of biostatisticians came to one set of conclusions and another have come to another, both competent people.
Correct.
We're now into really, again, lack of clarity, and I'm not saying from you. My question is, do you think there have only been 7 studies over 40 years in terms of the efficacy of mammograms in early detection? Do you think it's time to do another study?
No, I do not. Those studies...
Would you comment on that? Because it would seem like we need then kind of a study to settle the disputes about the other studies.
Those studies over that period of time enrolled over 400,000 patients. And over that period of time, much has changed with regard to the state-of-the-art of mammography and our state-of-the-art with regard to breast cancer care. To attempt to repeat that kind of study in which there would be a randomization that women, by the flip of a coin or by chance, would be assigned to either mammography or no mammography would not, at this point in time, be a viable or rational study, in my opinion, one that would not likely be able to be carried out at this point in time, certainly not, I believe, under our current structure.